Welcome everyone, this is Walt Schoenborn, Director of Digital Media at scienceboard.net, here live at ISCT 2022. I'm here with Dr. Patrick Hanley. Patrick is Chief and Director of Cellular Therapy Program and Associate Professor at Children's National and George Washington University. And possibly almost as important, you are now the Regional Vice President-elect North America in the North America Regional Executive Committee. So congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, almost starting soon.
Yeah, super cool. I love all that, first of all, just talk to ISCT for a quick sec, and then we're going to kind of talk more about your role in that. But, we talking to numerous people from ISCT, and this is the first, in-person program they've had in 3 years.
Yeah.
And it's in, 2019 Melbourne, and seeing a lot of these people that haven't seen one another in such a long time, obviously has got to be a great feeling for you.
Absolutely.
It's, one of the things that I was really enamored with was ISCT was obviously very dedicated to cell and gene therapy, in the marketplace, but, their collaboration and partnership amongst each other, and really, there's just a lot of good energy, engagement, and attendance at a lot of these panel discussions.
Yeah.
And I wanted to get your take on it for just being here and obviously being a huge part of it.
Yeah, so first of all, it's great to be here in person. It's great to talk to you and kind of talk about this and, spread the word. But it's great to be here in person. We had those panel discussions yesterday. I was a part of two of those, got brought into a third one by accident. But yeah, every room I went in was standing room only, people against the back of the wall, right? And that's great to see. You're worried about the first in-person conference. Everybody's a little bit hesitant, right? But everybody is really happy to be there. There's a lot of energy, a lot of enthusiasm, a lot of great questions.
Yeah.
And that's what you want to see. And some really good discussions, right? So I led a panel where we had a patient, Doug Olson, who's been cured now for 10 years, awesome. Second CAR T-cell patient ever at UPenn.
Yeah.
And, he had this quote that I loved, which was, before me, it was only in mice, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, how about that?
Yeah, totally. I love hearing the actual patient stories on this side of it, because I'm hearing more and more of them, and that's obviously, that's right. I mean, that's, and that's where we know that obviously that we already know the trajectory is high, and we already know, from all of the science that's been behind it, but to actually see it, the applications coming to life and actually going into survivorship is just, from my chair has been one of the coolest things I've been able to see. Yeah. All right. So I want to come back and talk to you about your role in ISCT, because I'm really excited to talk to you more on that. I want to talk to you about, as Chief and Director of the Cellular Therapy Program, and you're at Children's National, and I just want to get your opinion on a couple things. We talked about survivorship just a second ago. I guess what I want to know is, are you seeing improvements yourself in the potency of existing cellular therapies and reducing the time it takes to get them to patients, just like we were talking about?
Yeah. So at Children's, we are seeing that improvement. I think virus-specific T cells are a good example of that. We've seen increased potency based on the manufacturing, based on improvements to the process. And then that has allowed us to pivot and deliver those virus-specific T cells in an off-the-shelf fashion. So now we're talking about delivery to patients in 48 hours rather than 20 days, right? Because all the testing, all that has been done. And because we know the potency, we know where the activity is for each of those products, we can deliver them immediately to those patients. And so that's at Children's National. And then you're seeing new developments at UPenn, right? So, hey, we can make T cells, CAR T cells, in 3 days versus 20, right? And so those patients are going to benefit because they can be treated that much sooner. Maybe there's no bridging chemotherapy that's required. Those kind of things. That's exciting. And hopefully we'll see a decrease in the cost of those products as well, which is great for the patient.
Right, and we kind of talk a little bit about that, and in some of the previous discussions that we've had, we just came back from scienceboard.net was just at a cell and gene conference in Barcelona a week or two ago, and it's so different seeing it from like the European marketplace with how things are, the billables and all that kind of thing, and then seeing it here from the stateside. And you start talking about cost. I mean, do you see, you're deep in it, and I mean, are you seeing any kind of relief from the cost side of things with treating patients?
Yeah, I think we are starting to see differences in cost, and it has to do with the scale and the automation. Coming to this meeting, ISCT, the exhibitors, right? They used to be, so here's a new media, here's maybe a new software. Now we're seeing new devices, right?
Yeah.
And that's exciting because there's a workforce shortage, which I think we'll talk about later. And if we can automate things, that makes it that much easier, hopefully cheaper, quicker, more reproducible. And so, yeah, I do think we're making a difference there. Ultimately, is that going to impact the price of a pharmaceutical drug? I can't speak to that, but I hope so, right? And the companies do want the best for the patient as well.
Yeah, and I think that there's so much happening at such a scale of speed that everyone is just like waiting to see, what's like, how's the FDA going to work? They just did stuff, in April of approval on some CAR T stuff, but where's it going to go with, and there's it's all good speed, but it's all a sense of uncertainty also, I think, from people in your position as well as people on the sponsor side of things, but
speaking to the global nature of ISCT, you just came from Barcelona.
Right.
Barcelona has a hospital that has a hospital exemption to deliver CAR T cells to patients that are manufactured there.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And that's different.
Right.
And I think you're going to see that more widespread over the coming years.
And they're kind of centralizing it themselves. Like it's like their own, like, we actually were talking about that in an earlier discussion. And then that specific hospital and the hospital exemptions, they can kind of make their own rules, right?
Yeah. And if cost doesn't go down in that situation, then we have a problem.
Right. Yeah, I 100% agree with you. I wanted to go over, so last year you're co-author of a study that found T-cell therapy alone or combined with nivolumab was safe and persistent attacking Hodgkin's lymphoma cells. Is combining these novel immune therapies an attractive and targeted alternative to conventional untargeted therapies, such as chemo and radiation?
Yeah, so we worked on this with Dr. Kath Ballard and Dr. Hema Dave, the first author of that paper. And I think it is exciting because you can combine a number of different modalities.
Yeah.
And it makes sense. A checkpoint inhibitor, right, could theoretically increase the persistence and activity of those tumor-specific T cells. And so that is exciting. And I think that same concept has been investigated with CAR T cells, with bone marrow transplant. The concern is that you don't want to overactivate the T cells and cause graft versus host disease. But we really didn't see much of that, the toxicity concerns.
Right.
And so that does lend favorably to that potential synergy of those two drugs.
It's interesting because it's you start going into what this kind of catch-all phrase of like precision medicine and things like that, and you start seeing applications, and then you can start seeing, okay, well now that all the puzzle pieces kind of make sense from a patient-centric point of view. You brought up something interesting earlier, and I want to come back to it. You talked about workflow. I mean, workforce on a little bit. I kind of wanted to get your opinion on that. Like, where do you see, how has that been an impediment? Has that led to process improvements? I mean, where do you stand on that?
Well, I think ultimately it's good, right? It means that there's high demand in our field, which ultimately will recruit more people into our field, more highly skilled workforce. I think right now we're in we have to deal with that, and so it's a little bit more painful.
Right.
But it will benefit the field in general. And this is an area that we've been particularly focused in, right? I think I was going to talk about it later, but my journey with ISCT, although it's just getting started, it has been quite extensive already. So I was involved in founding the Early Stage Professionals Program with Emily Comley-Seymour and Deb Griffin. And that was huge for the society because now what we're doing is, we have a cadre of young investigators who are getting mentored. I think I just heard almost 100 mentors are mentoring these people, right? And so those are physician scientists, those are quality, regulatory, those are technicians, right? And they're getting that mentorship that they need. And so the next step is, well, how do we provide training programs? and continue to build that workforce. And how do we get the word out to high school students that, hey, maybe I don't need to go and be a physician. Maybe I can work in cell and gene therapy and really impact the lives of patients in a different way. And so that's exciting.
Yeah, it is exciting. And, it's interesting because it's, we spoke earlier with Jacques Gallipeau, and we spoke with some of the people that have been on this board of ISCT and will continue to be, but now we're starting to see this younger wave of the Dr. Patrick Hanleys and all you guys that are coming in to your roles, and that is obviously just a huge kudos to the people, the predecessors, and what they built and how comfortable they are in terms of passing the torch on.
Yeah, I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for the investment of my mentor at Children's, who was a former ISCT president, right? Believing in me that I would be good for this position and I should absolutely, try and be more involved with ISCT. Bruce Levine, I don't know how much Bruce knew me, but in 2013, he reached out to me and said, hey, we would love your expertise on this immunogene therapy committee, right? Fast forward 5 years and I was the co-chair of that committee. And so that kind of investment and also mentorship is how I ended up where I am. And, those people, their time is very precious. And so I'm grateful for all that.
So Patrick, thank you again for your time. I very much appreciate it. Dr. Patrick Hanley, Regional Vice President-elect North America, Regional Executive Committee at ISCT, Chief and Director, Cellular Therapy Program. I very much appreciate your time here today. And thank you for being with everybody on scienceboard.net.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate you spreading the word. It's important.
Thanks. All right, talk to you guys soon.